Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Dharma Junkie. As usual, I am Justin, and on this episode, this is one of those ones that I kind of dug out of the vault. I recorded this last year in December. It's a pretty short episode. It's with medium Annie Larson, and she answers all my questions about being a medium and the world of a psychic. No matter how skeptical I was, or probably still am, I have a lot of questions about it still. Perhaps I'll be able to talk to her again or get somebody else on. Anyway, it's a good episode. I hope you check it out. If you like the podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you wish to contribute to the podcast to help keeping it going, you can do that at Venmo, and that's at Dharma Junkie, or Cash App, which would be the $ Dharma Junkie. So would appreciate it if you could help out. That'd be awesome. If not, thanks for listening. Like I said, be sure to rate and subscribe. And without further ado, here's Annie Larson.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. We're using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Anyway, I wanted to welcome Annie Larson to Dharma Junkie. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Annie Larson, and I work as a medium. And I also do a couple other things like Reiki, energy healing, and reading astrology and horoscopes and things of that nature.
Okay. Elaborate work as a medium, because that opens up a whole giant thing. So let's touch on that a little bit. What exactly do you mean in the sense that you work as a medium? In what capacity?
So I talk to loved ones on the other side, and I also get information for people intuitively or psychically that I share with them. But a medium is somebody who connects with people who've departed this plane and shares that information with people who are living on this plane.
Like John Edwards?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's quite something. He's quite the medium. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of controversy behind him with his little earpiece.
With John, that's interesting. I've seen a lot of mediums work, and John's somebody that I think he has a pretty broad ego. From the books that I've read of his, but I've actually been read by him, and I couldn't imagine how he would know the things that he knew.
Really? That's fascinating.
Really. And I don't think he has an earpiece.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a simple way for people to just discount things that they don't understand and that they can't prove. We as human beings want to see it, feel it, and touch it. And if we can't see it, feel, and touch it, then we want to discount it because I think it scares people.
Well, I mean, that's not to say that there's not a lot of fraudulent mediums out there.
There could be. I agree with that. I've seen people that I think it's more maybe on the fortune teller realm that I see a lot of the fraud where people want to remove curses and, want you to give them all your money so they can remove it. Like that stuff is,
Right.
I stay away from the fortune tellery side of this for that very reason, because there is a lot of issues in and around fortune telling.
Right. Yeah. People get addicted to that stuff.
No, that's one thing I will say. Mediums will not allow that at all. Because we're supposed to get information for ourselves. I believe we're all intuitive. And we're supposed to receive that information for ourselves. Most people that have a reading with me are just confirming what they already know. That's what I found over the many, many years that I've been reading people.
How long have you been reading people?
Well, I professionally read people when I was very young, up into my late 20s. And then I came back to this work kicking and screaming back in the early, like 2010. So it's been over a decade now.
Okay.
I did not want to do this. Most mediums I know don't readily want to do this work. It's hard to be out there. It's hard to deal with spirit. So.
Right. When did you first notice that you had some sort of ability in this way?
I knew it as a child, but my first confirmation of it was when I was 5 or 6 years old.
And what happened?
My sister, who's about a decade older than me, was into this. It tends to run in families, so I understand my own family having this interest. But my sister had gone to a seance and came home and was told that somebody was going to visit her. So, of course, she was scared. I was 5, 6 years old. And she woke me up and said, "Hey, will you come and sleep with me? Stay with me in my room because I'm supposed to have this visit." And I'm a kid. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. So we went into her room. She had a double bed laid down. And I sensed somebody in the corner of her dark room. And it was kind of rustling. And I discounted a lot of stuff. And then the most horrible perfumey smell came over. And I said to my sister, I said, "What is that awful smell? Take off that perfume. It stinks." And she said, "I'm not wearing any perfume." So then I actually felt whatever was in the corner, it was an older female, came over, and I felt like somebody breathing next to me. And I was scared, but at the same time, I was really excited because I had had experiences like this that I was discounting because everyone around me was discounting, like it's make believe, it's pretend, whatever. So that was kind of my first confirmation that there's somebody here. My sister knows it too. And isn't this fun?
Right. No, it seems like a lot of children have that ability. And people just discount it as imagination, but it seems that maybe children seem to have that ability. Do you think that that's something that everybody is possibly born with and they lose over a period of time due to maybe conditioning of some sort, and other people just retain it better than others? Or do you think that it's something more than that?
Justin, that's a great question. I do think there are children born with sensitivities. So I would think, I'm born with sensitivities. I've met children. They normally can see spirit, talk to spirit. They fascinate me, these children that do that. I think around the age of reason, maybe 7, maybe a little bit younger, they shut it off. And it probably is conditioning. Oh, it's your imagination. Oh, we don't believe in those things. And then other people don't shut it off, like me. I never shut it off because for me, it was real and it was my truth. I knew it wasn't make-believe. Like I really trusted myself. So I think that was the difference. And I also think that some people are born with abilities like this. Like I look at some of the great baseball players and some of the great basketball players, people that come out are concert pianists who come into this world being able to play the piano. And where does this come from? Nobody questions it. They're just able to do it. Maybe it's past lives. Who knows? But they come in with the ability. And of course, they develop it. So it's kind of the same thing with me. I think I came into this world with abilities that I've then spent time to develop and nurture.
And how did you go about doing that? Like how did you develop it? It seems like a hard muscle to build.
Maybe for a lot of people, they would think it's a hard muscle to build. I think it's almost like the more you do something, the better you get. The more you practice basketball, the better you get at basketball. So I think it's just flexing that muscle every day, which So from the time I was young into my late 20s, I had some really bad experiences in my late 20s, and I stopped doing readings professionally. I gave it up and decided I would just be quiet. My skills and abilities never went away. I just didn't want to do readings anymore. But for me, when I came back into this work, when I was young, there was no one to help. There was no John Edwards. There were no big names out there. The big names were over in England, and there were some obscure people helping in the 70s and 80s. And in the 60s, I was lucky to be with my sister and go to Georgetown into some of these really strange places like the Orb and stuff. And I write about this a little bit on my website. But when I came back into this work, there were more people out there who were doing this work, like John Edwards, who had written books and who you could go see and who you could develop training with. But realistically, all the training I've been through in my lifetime, and I've been with some really famous mediums, how I read when I was a kid is exactly how I read now. I've been exposed to a lot of things, but it's just like, this comes naturally to me. So it's just kind of how I go with it.
Okay. What is your process for that? Like, I know nothing about this at all. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. And I really appreciate you being on. I know we had some scheduling issues at first. And,
it's all good.
So I did want to say thank you for actually being on, and answering my questions. What is the reading process like? I mean, could you just, I know that's probably a really broad question, but
yeah, actually I start pretty much the same way. So for me, when somebody books a session with me, right away, their energy and their energy of their loved ones comes through. Sometimes I get people who actually irritate me a little bit before a reading because they're kind of like, I'm here and I want to tell you this. And I don't want to have the reading then because they only have so much energy to give. And I want to make sure that they're sharing their energy during the session. So it's the strongest. And so what I do is, normally I'm showering and in a meditative state. That's normally when a lot of them really start coming in strongly, those quiet times during the day. When I sit down and begin my sessions, I'm normally writing down my clients' names and then writing down the information that I'm getting and kind of getting who goes for what. So which spirit is for whom, what information maybe intuitively is coming through that I need to place with someone. And then when I start the readings, I have this information, but I have to make sure I tap into the person at the time. And when I tap into the person, then I might get a whole new flow of information, or it may be something where it just verifies the information that I have for them. And then I start, it normally is, I have somebody here. Sometimes I have 3 people come through at once and I kind of have to say, okay, I have somebody here who's telling me that they're a mother to you, somebody who's an aunt to her. So I have sisters coming through. And then from there, I'm sharing information that they give me. Normally I'm looking for evidence so that my client knows who the person is and that it's actually them. And when I say evidence, it's not normally name, rank, and serial number. It normally is like a memory or something. So I can tell you one from today that was interesting. I had a reading and I really didn't get a sense of who was coming through. It was very confusing to me. But what came through very clearly was that it was Easter and they were having Easter egg hunts and there were eggs all over the place and that they had bunnies and that this was a time when it was very happy memory for my client to be around these bunnies and be around this person. And sure enough, it turned out to be, a relative who was further back who every Easter they spent time with, and she raised bunnies. So it's very specific information, and it's more of memory type information that I'm sharing.
Interesting.
And I think that's far more important because, a lot of people, like, you're obviously skeptical about mediums. You think there's some fraudulently out there. And, you can't deny that. I'm sure there's fraud in every industry. But in looking at that, I want the information where somebody kind of goes, how could she know that? And that's what spirit is bringing through.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. Because I have to admit I am a bit skeptical.
It's okay.
Not to say that I don't believe. It's just I have seen so many cases of people getting over on people in these aspects, and that's another reason I wanted to have you on. Is I just kind of wanted to kind of feel it out.
I don't mind skeptics at all. There are things that happen sometimes with me where I'm skeptical. There are things that have really just blown me away that spirit has shared with me that is kind of like, wow, how does that happen? How does that happen? Yeah. It's amazing.
Is there anything that stands out that just kind of really blew you away?
I think one of the things that blew me away the most is early on. So this was going back many years now. I was doing an impromptu reading. It wasn't really planned or anything. It wasn't an ambush reading, as I call them, like Teresa Caputo does, but she gets paid for it. But I had a grandmother stepping forward, and the person said, can she tell you her name and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, it's Shirley. It's an unusual name. And went from there and started giving information about her dog and how she lived and some of the things that she wore and some memories and stuff. And then the person I was doing the reading for wanted her last name. Last name was really important. And I said, it's like Lee. It begins with Lee. So the reading went on, and it actually went on over the course of a weekend because I knew the client. And over the course of the weekend, I was getting information like when I was prepping to go out for the evening. Again, those quiet times when you're showering and doing your hair and stuff.
Right.
So the name Leopold and Loeb came up. And I was like, oh my God, there's the Lee. Leopold and Loeb were back from the 1950s. That's how spirit shares things. They give you things that I can understand. So I got in touch with the client and I said, her last name must be Leopold or Loeb. And she said, well, it's Loeb. But she said, the name that I want is the name that nobody on the face of the earth knows. Nobody would know it. She never told anyone. The only people that know it were there at her deathbed. And I said, okay, I'll never get this, but whatever. It was a challenge. Right. And so hold on, I'm going to cough.
You okay?
Yes, I have I have a tickle. It's terrible. Dry hair.
Take your time. Okay. Where are you located?
Just outside of DC.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Oh my God, I have the worst tickle. Anyway, so she had wanted this name that her grandmother, that nobody knew. I said, I'll never get that. I don't like those type of challenges too. But the next morning I woke up and I had Rugrats. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Rugrats, the show. Mm-hmm. There were two characters, Lipinski, Dr. Lipinski, and then Lipschitz. And so I called her and I said, it's either Lipinski or Lipschitz. And she said, it's Lipschitz.
Oh, wow.
So that was a name that nobody knew. I mean, her husband didn't know it. Nobody knew that name. So that one was kind of like crazy for me too.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was unusual.
That's very strange. So what, You said you had taken a break for a while. You said you had kind of gotten out of what you do now and gotten back into it about 10, what'd you say, 10 years ago or so?
Mm-hmm. I got back into it because I started having experiences. I didn't want them. I didn't want to do this work. I wasn't called to it. I always had gotten stuff for people and I just shared. I would, if I got something for somebody, I'd say, I just get stuff. And so I started having these experiences that really were just so overwhelming. In fact, I had a lot of people that came to me that had committed suicide. And so it was tough doing those readings, but I was sharing the information. Mm. And I didn't want to have the bad experiences that I did back when I was in my 20s. So really, it was a full surrender for me, where I had to just kind of trust spirit and say, look, I don't want those experiences. I don't want to open myself up to that. So I'm just going to surrender and trust that I'll be guided and everything will be okay. And that's the way it's been. It really has been a trust and guiding. And I haven't had any of the horrible experiences I had in my 20s.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really good because I wouldn't be doing this work.
Right. You'd have to say, I quit again.
Yeah.
Oh, so how often do you see clients? Is it a daily thing or a weekly thing, or?
I normally see clients about 4 days a week.
So you stay pretty busy?
I stay busy, but I have to manage my energy. So
well, you can only give away what you've got. So, you can only give away what you have.
Well, it's true, and I try to. It's really important, I think, for people to manage their energy. I know when we've talked before, you probably manage your energy. You work during the day, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I work and go to school full time.
So you have to manage your energy, and it's probably really hard, but this is a passion for you, right?
Correct.
Right. So for you, it's probably there are times where you don't have the energy to do this.
That's true. In fact, I just got off of a month-long break. I was still doing interviews, but I hadn't released anything just because I was in the middle of moving, and so I moved houses and then started school again, and so it's been pretty busy. So I was like, I had to make a choice, and I was like, I'm going to take some time off for myself, and I had to just kind of put this on the back burner for the moment, which I was releasing episodes weekly. And so that was kind of an ego thing for me to have to take a break, but it was much needed recharge, and here we are. So
that is one thing I think with mediumship too. You really have to set the ego aside. Yeah. There is a lot about that, so that you can just be that vessel for spirit, so you don't screw up your readings, so you don't interject yourself into it. But I very rarely read during the evenings. And if I do have, a lot of my group sessions are during the evenings. So I'll take myself off the schedule during the day because people want 110% from you, and they should have it. So that's why I manage my time a lot.
Yeah, I think time management is one of the most overlooked and most important things that people can do for themselves.
Well, balance is really important in my life. And I also have a granddaughter now, and I'd rather be with her than anyone else. So if there's time to spend with her, that's what I'm going to be doing.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
So what do you, I hate to ask this, what do you normally charge for a reading? Like if someone was to call you and want to come in for a reading, like what's the whole process and like what do you charge, and just how does that go?
So the charge depends on what you want. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty average for where I live and other mediums in the area. So I'm right in that middle range. I don't take any calls over the phone for bookings. Everything is completely online. I really want nothing to do with that part of it. If people have questions and stuff, I'm happy to answer questions. But for me, if you're called to it, you'll book, and it just depends. I do different types of readings, different lengths of readings. So it's kind of hard to put out, plus
Right.
two, if you live in an area like just even 30 minutes south of where I live, people charge less just because of the area.
Right.
They don't have the same amount in rents that we pay up here.
Yeah. You said you're right outside of DC, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, right outside of DC. I was down there.
Very expensive. Very expensive up there.
It is. DC is expensive. DC and the whole area is very expensive.
DC like then the DC area, isn't that one of the more expensive places to live in the country?
I live in Loudoun County, which is one of the most expensive places to live in the U.S. So yes,
that's crazy.
And not only do I have my home here, but I also have my office here, so I get to pay, rent for my office too.
Fantastic.
No, but I love it here. I'm not complaining at all.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful up there. It's beautiful. I was actually going to move to DC at one point, but then that ended up falling through. So, but I was looking at some places in right outside of DC in Virginia, but didn't happen. So I'm back in Florida now.
Oh, but hey, you have much nicer weather.
It's nice. We have hurricanes too, though.
We get them. They come up the Chesapeake.
Yeah, that's true. I probably not as frequently as we do in Florida. But.
No, everything has to be just right for us to get hit by a hurricane.
Right,
so it's about once every 30 years.
No, see, it doesn't take that for us. It just takes a strong headwind.
Last year, I think that was the banner year for hurricanes. Of course, it was 2020.
Right. Yeah, we got hit with a good one last year. It was Hurricane Sally.
Oh.
Pretty direct hit with that one. I'm in Pensacola, Florida, so we've gotten quite a few good ones over the years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun. It's makes life interesting when they happen. Being without power for a couple of weeks and having to pick up all the trash out of your yard and hopefully go outside after the really fun part is sitting in the house during the storm and hoping that nothing falls on it.
You don't leave?
Nah. I've never evacuated for a hurricane. Not once.
Okay.
I mean, of course, the strongest one I've been through was a Cat 4. It was almost a Cat 5, but that was.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, I've never left.
No, I'm a chicken. I'm a chicken.
No, we're crazy down here. It's Florida. We don't leave.
I think I saw that last year where people weren't leaving. I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah, for sure. We don't leave that at all.
So why do you call your podcast Dharma Junkie?
Well, that's an interesting question. I am a recovering addict, and what really got me through my addiction and helped me break my addiction and has helped me maintain my sobriety is by studying the Dharma, which is the teachings of the Buddha. So there you go, Dharma Junkie.
Yeah.
I've changed my focus.
I actually
I've changed my addiction.
Yeah, well, Eastern philosophies have a lot to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, an awful lot to offer. And in fact, I will say a lot of my clientele is, and I'm more Eastern philosophy based. I'm not really, Western philosophy based.
Right.
And a lot of my clients are, from India, from China. I have a really broad base, and people from other places, more Eastern places, are far more accepting and open to everything that I do.
Really?
Because they're raised with it.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're raised with the spirits of your ancestors. They live in your home with you.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Western civilization has just got a very closed off approach to things that they can't see, feel, and touch and quantify, which is interesting because they have faith that they can't see, feel, or touch or quantify. So I'm always fascinated by that. Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm just like, you believe in stuff that you can't see, feel, or touch. It's
but only this stuff that they can't see, feel or touch.
Yeah.
Not the other stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I've always found that fascinating. It's like, wait, so you believe this,
right.
but not. Okay.
I know. It's like you believe in angels that you can't see, feel, or touch, but you don't believe in spirits that you can't see, feel, or touch. Yeah.
That's religion for you. Religion's a funny thing.
It's yes.
So do you practice any set religion, or are you spiritual in any way? Or, I mean, obviously you're spiritual, but like, do you have any spiritual practice that you do?
I consider myself a very spiritual person, probably more connected with the rhythms of nature and things around that. I've studied, of course, I'm a yoga teacher. I've been to India and Nepal. So I've studied a lot of Eastern philosophies. Certainly the Dharma Buddha resonates with me. I was lucky enough to be in Sarnath, where he gave his first Dharma speech there. And Hinduism resonates with me, not so much the religious part of it, but certainly the spiritual part of it, especially yoga. But yeah, I consider myself very spiritual. I'm very open to what anyone believes. Like, I don't care what you believe. I think it's important that whatever you believe it with your whole heart, because that's probably your dharma here with what will get you through this lifetime, whether it's, Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism or any of the other religions out there.
Right. Yeah, I would have to agree. If you're going to do anything, put your all into it. Yeah.
I think it's probably your dharma and how you're supposed to live, and whatever gets you through the night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to get in touch with you, how could they find you?
At Medium, Annie with an IE, Larson with an R and an O, mediumannielarson.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show. It's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you so much. Sorry for the coughing.
Oh, no problem. You have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Big thanks again to Annie for being on the show. If you'd like to get in touch with her, as you just heard, you can find her at mediumannielarson.com. And again, if you did like the show, please rate and review. It would really help me out a lot. Let's be honest, things haven't been going great for me lately. I'm in kind of a difficult spot. And not really even financially, just mentally. So, whatever. Who cares? I'll talk about it on some other show. Anyway, thanks for listening. This has been Dharma Junkie. Namaste.
Chaos is beautiful.